Well, I've had a health condition for 25 years. It's invisible, but it affects my both physical and mental function. And it means that I have about a quarter of the energy of a normal, healthy person. So basic everyday tasks that people take for granted, like taking my kids to school, putting food on the table for them, even things like reading a newspaper are often a major challenge for me. So I've always needed support financially, and I've never been able to be financially independent. But it was when my marriage ended 5 years ago, sadly, and I found myself looking after two children, aged 2 and 4, on my own with a debilitating health condition that I needed help from benefits. So ESA is the new benefit for people who are not able to work due to illness or disability. I was assessed when I made my claim as being not fit for work. Only under the welfare reforms, people like me who are put in the so-called work-related activity group are required to undertake activities in order to prepare for work, otherwise you can have your benefits cut. So once I found myself in the work-related activity group and sent to a work programme provider, I started getting letters sending me to go on workshops, which were about an hour on public transport plus 20 minutes walk, and they were 3 days a week. And frankly, if I'd been able to do those things, I wouldn't have been eligible for the sickness benefit in the first place. The letters were really threatening, told me that if I didn't take part, my benefits would be cut. So that's when the anxiety started for me. So there were these really unreasonable requirements that I just couldn't meet, and I really wrestled with myself because I was always brought up to do as I was told, and I tried so hard to comply with what was being asked of me. At the same time, I knew that this was completely beyond my capability, and my health condition is such that if I push myself way beyond what my daily threshold is, I'm going to suffer a massive flare-up and I'm going to be bedridden for the following week. And while I know many people who are so scared of losing their benefits with illnesses like mine that they will push themselves to do these activities and they will spend the rest of the week in bed recovering. But with 2 young children to look after, I couldn't willingly put myself in a situation where I'd be completely unable to look after them. I mean, I need help from friends and family already as it is when I can't manage parenting tasks, but to actually put myself in that situation where I'd be completely incapacitated, it was something that I thought no decent human being would think that was a reasonable thing to ask me to do. What happens is if you fail to attend an activity, the DWP asks you to give a good reason for why you failed to attend. And I gave that same good reason 5 times after I failed to attend, explaining that according to their own assessment of me, I'm not capable of going on these workshops. And for some unknown reason, the 5th time they decided to sanction me, and I still to this day don't know why they didn't accept my good reason. It's never been explained, it was never communicated to me. I was just left without any information. They didn't even write and tell me that I'd been sanctioned. I actually started to have severe anxiety attacks to the point where I couldn't make a phone call to them anymore. And this is not something I've suffered in other areas of my life. It was really the effect of the sense of threat and the sense of harassment and the sense that I'm being looked upon as somebody somebody who's socially deviant, who needs coercion and threat of punishment in order to change my ways, basically. Somebody who by virtue of being in this situation in the first place must be lazy, good for nothing, lying, cheating. And that kind of what felt like an attack on my sense of identity was what led me to develop these quite severe anxiety attacks, even before the sanction happened. When I found out I'd been sanctioned, of course I felt angry and I felt wounded because they didn't write and tell me that they'd been sanctioned. I only found out in the course of a phone call about something else, and I felt, well, does being ill make me so unworthy of respect that they don't even need to have the decency to write and tell me what they've done? So that made me feel incredibly small and worthless. And And then soon afterwards, I sank into depression, really, because the system for trying to appeal a sanction is so complicated and legalistic. And if you don't have legal representation, it's really difficult. And I couldn't get legal representation. So I felt this sense of powerlessness, really, of and not having been able to prevent the sanction happening in the first place made me feel incredibly powerless. At the same time, I started to withdraw from other people and turn in on myself, and because being sanctioned makes you feel like you've been branded an outcast or an undesirable. And although it might not be rational, I stopped reaching out to my friends and people I knew, from taking my children to school, because I felt this shame inside me, and I thought, if people find out I've been sanctioned, they might think I'm one of those people they see depicted in the media as being lazy and good for nothing, and they might not want to associate me. And so it made me turn in on myself and feel stigmatised. Something that a well-known Tory peer said in the newspaper recently really struck me in relation to what happened to me. Lord McAlpine was accused of crimes that he didn't commit, and he was hounded by the media. And after he'd managed to clear his name, he said, finding yourself a figure of public hatred unjustifiably is terrifying. It gets to your bones, it makes you angry, it gets into your soul, and it makes you feel like there's something wrong with the world. And I think that whoever you are, whether you're a Tory peer or someone who needs help from benefits because of some misfortune in your life, finding yourself a figure of scorn and harassment is utterly soul-destroying, and it can never be helpful to people who might just need some support to help to rebuild their lives or to move towards a more independent situation. It can never be helpful to treat people like that. It's only ever going to take them further away from being able to rebuild their lives. And I feel very strongly that sanctioning people who are too ill to work can never be the solution to getting more disabled people into work. And that seems to be the only solution the government's relying on at the moment.